Hey, welcome to the show. It is the Randy Karraker Show featuring Brooke Grimsley, but Brooke is out having a baby, so Brenden Schaeffer is in.
I'm in.
I like your Indiana cap.
I am here with an Indiana cap. I am here not having a baby, so that is why I am able to.
I'm glad that you're here.
Yes.
Sports Hub STL is presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. So you might have thought, okay, the Cardinals beat up on the Pirates a little bit. They go to Washington and beat up on the Nationals a little bit. Then they win 2 out of 3 from Philly. Then they win 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. Then they beat the team with the best record in baseball. And they take on the Tigers again tonight. They face Tarek Skubal. Cardinals could have their hands full tonight. But Brenden Schaeffer, I am of the belief that we're moving past the stage of this being a team that is just on a good run. I think that I'm starting to believe that they might be a pretty good team.
They might just be good, right? I mean, how many times do they have to show you what they are before we start to believe them? And I know that we're kind of anchored to those preseason, those off-season expectations, which were lowered because, well, they didn't spend any money. They didn't go out and get anybody to improve the roster. But the more the internal candidates continue to perform, the more we might just have to think the Cardinals have a pretty good team on their hands.
Yeah, last night, 16 hits, 11 runs, 60-cent drinks, by the way, today at Mobile on the Run. Congratulations to you. And so in a home run, and the game is changing. It's going back to, it's always going to be a home run game, okay? But with what the Cardinals did to score their first 5 runs last night. First inning, Donovan with an RBI single to score Nootbaar. 4th inning, Herrera scores on a wild pitch. 5th inning, Contreras grounds out to shortstop to score Newt. 5th inning, Herrera grounds into a fielder's choice to score Win on a great base running play. And then Arenado grounds into a fielder's choice to shortstop to score Donovan and make it 5-0. Really, you hit one ball out of the infield and still were able to put 5 runs on the board.
Yeah, once the bases were loaded, it was all just small ball, finding a way to get it done with base running. Even the Arenado ball, where he's got to haul it to first base to avoid the double play, does so by a step and is able to get that 5th run across. That was a nice way to see the Cardinals kind of put this game out of reach. I feel like they had that moment. They have the rain delay shortly thereafter, and the Tigers came back like they didn't really want to play anymore, right. And John Brebbia got lit up a little bit. So that's just, you kind of pound one of the best teams in baseball, the best record in baseball, team like that into submission in game 1 of a series. You got to love that.
Wonder if the Cardinals hierarchy, specifically Ali Marmol and Dusty Blake, have decided to at least thought about, maybe had the concepts of an idea of having Sonny Gray pitch every game at home.
Yeah, it's not bad. I don't know how you line that up scheduling wise. You could probably squeeze 2 starts per homestand out of him, bring McGreevy up to kind of fill in the gaps. It's not a bad idea. He's been much better at home, and it's really been the home run ball that has plagued him on the road. This has been true going back to last season as a Cardinal, and coming off of the games where he struggles, we really do see some strong stuff from Sonny Gray. Ethan Hannaford had the stat last night where 3 times this year where he's kind of gotten lit up, he comes back the next start and has like a 0.4 ERA across those 3 games. So it's been really good in the bounce backs, and it's been really good at home for Sonny Gray.
And I think last night was as good as you're going to see from him at this stage of his career. 6 shutout innings. He strikes out 10, allows 3 hits against a lineup that's performing at a pretty high level. I thought Gray was fantastic, and really everybody was fantastic until the Tigers scored some garbage time runs in the 9th inning against Graceffo.
Yeah, it's not something you care about at that point. I think it was probably difficult for Graceffo to even grip the ball. They were just trying to get that game finished up in the rain. But you mentioned Sonny's performance and against the lineup. You can look up and down that Tigers lineup, and there's a handful of guys with an 800 or better OPS. This is not the Pirates lineup or the Nationals lineup, for that matter, that he was dealing with in this one. That was impressive to see against a team that, look, because of their lineup and the way they're hitting the baseball this year, they've racked up 31 wins. So that's a big part of their game, and he was able to subdue them last night.
We love your entries into the chat. Topher Rocks, what a ball club. It's such a deep lineup right now, definitely making it hard on the other team's pitchers. Eli, Cards are legit. Our buddy Jay Renegade, one of the great parts of this show. Morning, Karraker and Schaeffer. Y'all looking extra cute today. Thank you very much.
Very nice to say. I appreciate that.
We like that. And he also said, I thought I had a thought last night. Did Nato save this season by refusing a trade? I don't know. And that's I'm worried about somebody. Here's the thing. He has to be moved down in the lineup on Sunday. And yesterday he was. Here is a couple of quotes. Here are a couple of quotes from Nolan Arenado yesterday, talking about asking to be moved down in the lineup because he hasn't been performing. Quote, I don't really have an answer. Just play better, play more the way I think I'm capable of. But it's been a minute since I felt like I could play the way I should. So I don't know if it's coming back or not. That's kind of concerning. He also said, I believe that all is not lost. I don't know. I just feel like I've been in a rut for a little bit now, for a few years now. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't have the answers. So when a guy says, when a Major League Baseball player says, I don't know if it's coming back or not, that rings some alarm bells for me.
Yeah, and those quotes don't really read to me like desperate to be moved down in the lineup. I think he's clearly frustrated with the way things are going for him. But what's so crazy about that, Randy, is the backdrop of all of this is the Cardinals surging through the stratosphere in a way that we didn't necessarily see possible. And so they're doing it to think about this season. And it's like, all right, the runway for Gorman and Walker is going to be a big part of whether the Cardinals succeed. They both kind of stunk. Walker's coming around. We'll see if that can stick. Arenado stays when we expected him to go. Wow, that's going to be a real jolt. Defensively, he's been good. Offensively, his OPS is sub 700 at this point. He's being lowered in the lineup. So the fact that they're winning without those guys maybe giving their best foot forward is kind of crazy, but maybe that's an indication that this could be more sticky. This could be more real, because what if you do get those guys to kind of turn things around? I don't know. Arenado says, I don't know if it's coming back. That just feels to me like Nolan Arenado talking. He's not one of those guys that's going to not speak his mind. He almost to a fault will tell you, he'll gush about the way he is feeling, his wearing his emotions on his sleeve, and that's just Nolan. And so I don't think that's the end of the world where we have to like circle that quote and say, oh, this is a sign that, I don't know what it's a sign of. It's a sign that that's just kind of the way he talks,
but he understands that it's been a couple of years now since he's been a good player. And when you look at his performance so far this year, hitting 238 with a 581 OPS in May. And here we are on May 20th now.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel it last year. For the first couple of weeks this year, it seemed like he did. And now he's saying he doesn't feel it again. Not that I would do this all the time, but do you consider, because of where he is right now, and clearly he doesn't have the ego to say, yeah, you got to keep me in the 4 spot in the lineup. Would you consider getting Gorman in at third once a week?
I feel like it depends on what your goal is. Is your goal to just try to extract the most out of Arenado to have him be the centerpiece to a potential playoff run here in a way that we haven't seen him be yet?
To do, because if he's saying that stuff, and he knows more than we do about himself, right? Other teams know how old Nolan Arenado is, how he has performed in the last 2 years, and what he is due financially in the next 2 years. And they also know that he has a very strident no trade clause. I kind of think now that Arenado is going to spend the rest of his career as a Cardinal.
I don't know. I think that, like I said, if it depends on what your goal is your goal to still trade him this July because things are like the team's going like this and he's kind of going like this, and that those run counter to one another.
I don't think there's a trade for him.
I don't think there is either. And I don't know the way to inspire one. Is it to play him and hope he plays through it, or is it to protect him a little bit? But then if you're protecting him, I'm not buying into this notion that, Arenado's going to be fine with sitting once a week. I don't buy into that one bit. Yeah. So now is that a problem for him where he's kind of stomping around and you're like, well, how do we kind of delicately navigate this?
And maybe the thing to do is say, look, day game after night game, every Sunday, you're 34 years old, and by your own admission, you're struggling to find it. We want you to find it. We love having you here, but you know what? We're going to game manage you. We're going to load manage you a little bit.
I don't know how that would go over. It's an interesting question. I think it's a relevant question to be asked. I don't have an answer for it that I feel confident in of how that would go.
Will Sutton, that Nato leadership and energy, though, is helping, even if he's not himself. How do I put this in a nice way? When you Nolan Arenado is a great worker. He leads by example in an exemplary way. He works harder than anybody on the team. Nolan Arenado is not going over to Nolan Gorman and saying, hey, here's how I got my bat speed back. He's not going over to Lars Nootbaar and saying, you know, that 3-1 pitch that you swung at, that was ball 4. And here's what I do. From the impression I get, and this is just from talking to people around the ball club, I don't think that's the guy that Nolan Arenado is. Now, he plays hard, tries hard, leads by example, as good as it gets in that regard. But I don't think that Nolan Arenado is really that vocal leader. There's a reason that he asked for the Cardinals to bring Matt Carpenter in last year to be a leader.
Yeah, I think you've identified that pretty well. And it's not to say he doesn't have really strong relationships with teammates.
Right.
That's a different category that we're talking about. But this notion of leadership, I think his version of leadership is to be the guy that's out there on the front lines and performing and leading the team, leading the charge. And when he's not doing that performance-wise, there's this void that he feels, I think, where it's like, well, how am I helping here? How am I contributing when he's so hard on himself when he doesn't? That can be a little bit tricky for sure.
And he's a great guy, and he's a really hard worker, but leadership is for some people really elusive. And I try to find out from people who I think are really good leaders, whether or not leaders are born or made. And I kind of think that for the most part, leaders are born. There's just a personality trait that people have. You can learn to be a better leader, but I think there's an innate ability to lead. Go back to when Albert Pujols came back. None of the players on this team knew Albert Pujols, but he gets a standing ovation when he walks in.
Yeah.
And then almost immediately he's sitting in the dugout, sometimes when he wasn't playing, and players would go immediately to him after an at-bat and work with him on the iPad, right?
Yeah.
And you don't see that with a guy like Nolan Arenado. And I think one of the things that will make a guy like Albert Pujols a really good manager is that desire to interact with people on a regular basis and go outside of his own little realm and work with everybody.
And I think in Arenado's case, like, teams need and can really benefit from guys like that with that type of personality. But usually is that coming from the guy just having bonkers numbers and doing insane things defensively, and everybody can sort of be energized and charged up by that. And so it kind of doubles down when things are not going as well for him at the plate. He's coming up in these RBI spots. He's popping up. They move him down in the order. It becomes almost sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy where you have to find a way out of it. But by pulling back a little bit, are they going to get the most out of Nolan Arenado? Based on that personality trait, I think that's part of it when we talk about, well, mix Gorman in, do this. You got to think about the day-to-day of, like, how are you managing these personalities in the clubhouse to get the most out of them? And I believe that Oliver Marmol does a really good job of that. It's not an easy task in this instance because you've got a player who has played at a Hall of Fame level for a long time. And now that he's not, figuring out, well, where does he fit into this? How do we continue to everybody be rowing the boat in the same direction?
Small sample size, but he is 34. He's been in decline. And in May, 16 games, 68 plate appearances, 1 homer, 3 RBIs, 238 average, 279 on base, 302 slug for a 581 OPS.
Yeah, now you're pining for what he was last year, which is unfortunate because in last year, 719 OPS, he was a 101 on the OPS plus.
Yeah.
League average offense with this, I would say that Arenado has been a better defender this year, interestingly enough. With this level of defense and last year's offense, which he's a little bit off the pace of last year's offense right now. He hit 16 homers last year. I don't know if Arenado's ever hitting 25 home runs again in league. He may not hit 20. The power swing is just not the same, but there are other things that he's able to do, but not as the cleanup man. I think the profile he's giving is 6th, 7th in an order with really sterling defense, and that's not something he's used to being. That's not been his profile, his role on any roster in his life. So how does that sort of mesh is going to be interesting to see if it continues to be the case.
And if you're the Cardinals, by the way, his OPS plus this year is 91. Matthew.
So one thing I wanted to ask, and I will put myself in the bubble.
Hey, bubble.
I'm down this time, Brenden.
I see you.
Different screen, so
That's
no,
okay.
I'm here now. You mentioned the defense and the fact that he might even be playing better defense than last year when it did regress a little bit. Then you mentioned the below average OPS. So when we come off a 9-game road streak, yes, a lot of lefty pitching, that Nolan Gorman only got 10 at bats. Is the defense a reason that is stopping you from platooning Arenado out of the lineup to find at bats for other players? Because so much of the starting pitching is tied to one of the best defenses in the league.
Well, I can tell you this: every time Matthew Liberatore is pitching, Arenado's in there for me. And one of the things that the Cardinals, they think that Gorman is actually above average as a third baseman. We haven't seen much of him as a third baseman, but they not that he's ever going to be Nolan Arenado, who's one of the best defensive guys ever, but they think that they could get by with Nolan Gorman.
I think they could get by with Nolan Gorman's defense. I think they're doing a lot better than getting by with Arenado's defense.
No doubt.
And I think that Arenado is 100 some odd points OPS higher than Nolan Gorman. So this idea of like getting Nolan Gorman's bat in the lineup, That's runway talk. Runway's dead. Can we be real? Like, how many times have you seen, and I feel like we did this last week.
The runway's dead?
How many times, well, just from this standpoint, how many times have you seen Gorman and Walker in the same lineup?
Yeah.
Those are the runway guys. They're not playing at the same time because they're trying to win games. Burleson plays in right field yesterday. He gets on base 3 times. Walker comes in for defense when they're up, and then Walker gets a big swing late in the game, and things are rolling in a great direction from that standpoint. But this idea that, like, they have adhered to runway would be Herrera catching 60% of the games. He's hardly catching. It's correct. To your point about Arenado's defense, guess who else's defense is in the lineup because it matters? Pedro Pajes. I see a lot of Cardinals fans this morning on Twitter like, well, the way to really fix the lineup is to get Herrera back behind the plate.
Yeah, no,
it's not. No. Like, that's not. If you're trying to win games, if you're trying to do runway and say we really want to find out is Herrera a catcher, who cares? They've won, whatever they've won in a row at this point. Out of the last 14, 15, they're winning 12 out of 14, whatever it's been. That's really what they're looking at, I think, more so than runway at this point. And that's right. Ebbs and flows of a season. There might be a point, Randy, where they fade out a little bit and they say, all right, let's try to mix it up by going back to some of those runway concepts. But for now, they're putting together good lineups on the daily and it's working. So that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. And the Jay Renegade, I'd like to see Gorman at third base a little bit more. And that's all I'm talking about. Is once a week, because you do have a 34-year-old guy in St. Louis playing when it gets to be 100 degrees, and it will be 100 degrees before we know it. Playing every day, it ultimately does catch up to you.
And convincing him that's convincing Arenado to get on board with something like that. Right. We all can say it's relevant and a good idea. You don't want to have it become a situation where it's toxic or he's feeling like, they don't.
I didn't bring this up until he says moving down in the lineup. Yep. So is there some acquiescence overall?
Those quotes that Randy gave, though, don't scream to me, I'm begging to be moved down in the lineup. Frankly, just my opinion.
Well, he went to the manager.
I didn't see
to be moved.
I didn't see the quote on that.
Yeah.
I saw those quotes. You know what I mean? That's not what those say to me.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Ali said that too. That he asked to be moved down because from a team standpoint, he said you got Contreras and Herrera hitting.
Yeah.
I'm not hitting like those guys, and it's been a long time since I have.
It makes sense. I think fans have been looking for it
and he wants to win. Ultimately, Nolan Arenado wants to win.
And I was going to get to that. Is he wants to win, and so is there still a point where it's like, yes, his bat's below average now, but the way that the team is built, we're still winning more with him, and in the mindset of not only the Cardinals but Arenado is they're still better off with me, and so maybe he will be a little bit stubborn about it. But if that ever changed, I wonder.
They're not winning, but the problem is, like, they're not winning, and I'm not getting rescued from a non-winning situation because I'm not playing well enough. That was kind of how it read to me. He came out and said all the right things in spring training, but when he came out, there was a quote in there that was sort of the mind that, might not be in this situation if I had played better. Kind of could mean, maybe the team wouldn't have had such a dormant offseason. Maybe we would have kept pushing for a better roster and signing guys. Or it might have meant if I had played better, somebody would have wanted me and I might be somewhere else. Getting into the mind of the guy is not necessarily fair when, you don't want to speak for him. Mm-hmm. But I think it's very interesting and obvious that, like, he wants to play well for multiple reasons at this point, and not playing well kind of prevents a lot of what he probably would want and what the team would want.
And Jack McDaniel, we appreciate your chat. He says, trade him while his value is still fairly high. And I wonder now, at 34, with other teams, and basically a 4-team no-trade list that might be less than that now, who is going to make the move? The Dodgers and Yankees both need third baseman.
Yeah.
The Yankees want to stay below the luxury tax, or at least as far below as they can get. The Dodgers appear to think they have fine options with Muncy and their kids. I don't know who else is going to make a move. Who's going to make the move from a financial standpoint that will satisfy the Cardinals and satisfy Nolan Arenado? The trick here, if you're another team that wants to trade for him, is to get him to want to come to your franchise.
Yeah, and to satisfy the Cardinals in the way of
take money. You got to take money.
Taking the money, but also, like, if they're a team 8 to 10 games above 500, they're better to keep Nolan Arenado on the team and then figure it out in the offseason, which is another, risk, because maybe there's desperation from a team at the deadline. And if you really are the Cardinals and want to be free of the money, you might say now is the time to do it. And you figure it out internally. You call up Sajaci if Gorman can't play. Like, you figure out how to be competitive still with what you have. But I don't know. I think the Dodgers at the end of the day is still what I would come back to. Mm-hmm. And what would be their impetus for it? I would point to Paul Goldschmidt and say, how have we seen a guy change scenes new scenario, fresh start, and suddenly performing again.
Yep.
I wouldn't put it past Arenado to have that happen. And it's not the Cardinals' fault. That's not me saying like, oh, it's their fault. They can't get the most out of him. Sometimes that's just the way life goes. You have to move to be able to move forward.
Yep. There were a lot of years that the Cardinals got the most out of every single player that came and played for
That's
the organization.
true.
They would do less before they got here and less after they left here, and the Cardinals were able to get the most out. So as the Cardinals sit here right now on May 20th, they're one game out of the playoffs, so one game out of the wild card, one game out of the division lead. If I am the Cardinals 2 months from now, and I'm still in this spot, even, we're talking about Arenado, but I look at my other free agents. I look at Helsley, and the Phillies could certainly use a guy like Helsley, and there's a great number for you right there. But Helsley, Matz, and Fetty, if I'm sitting there and I'm one game out, I'm going to stand pat. I'm not going to move on from people. I'm going to. I'm not going to buy, but I'm also not going to sell. And here's the stat for you. Since since April, the Cardinals with the best record in baseball. NL. Okay, so yeah, pretty good.
17-6, best record in NL.
On the
a little blurry, Rock.
Sorry,
I'm trying to zoom in, but I don't have good enough eyes to zoom in.
Anyway. Well, actually, zooming in actually made it blurry on this screen. That's the problem.
Can you read it?
17-6 since April 25th was his best in National League. 16-6 at home. Starters have allowed 2 or fewer runs in 11 of their last 12 games, and they just hung 11 runs on the AL's top team.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good. I wonder about that though.
It's
I think
crystal
that's
clear on a phone, by the way.
I think that's the biggest conversation, more than like who's getting runway, who's not, because you can look at their actions and see that that's not really as much of a priority, at least right now. The biggest conversation is what happens at the trade deadline based on where they're at. And if they continue playing like this, how can you possibly, they have a bunch of guys that are short-term expiring contracts that you'd want to sell in a 500 season, but
Fetty, Matz, Helsley, Arenado. Well, Arenado's not a short-term, but Helsley, Matz, and Michaelis is
Helsley, Michaelis, if you will. I mean, Maton is out there on a short deal as well. If there's any value to him, like most of it's pitching for sure, but you could see the benefit. Like teams need pitching. Teams always need pitching at the deadline. But who's running this team? Like John Mozeliak is still in charge. Why would John Mozeliak, with a first place team or a team on the cusp of first place in his final year, go, yeah, let's tear it down for the next guy? No way.
And if you're Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt III, and you look at the return you got last time Mo sold off,
right?
Then why would you? Why would the guy who's leaving in a couple of months be the guy who's acquiring talent for the future?
Yeah, that would have to. If they went that route, Heimblum would have to be more hands-on, more involved, because it's going to be his guys that he's. What do you want? What are you hoping to gain out of this? Whereas I think the difference between 2 off-season or 2 Julys ago and now is that like you have one premium asset. It's Helsley. I think that's the guy that really would be a difference maker compared to with what the market would demand. Like last year or last time when they traded Flaherty, for example, he wasn't pitching super well. Helsley, if he's still pitching well and looking like a dominant closer, teams will pay up for that and prospect premium. But you're right. If you're in a position where they are right in the thick of it, and I think of it from ownership perspective too. How do you do that when the backdrop of all this is like, let's get fans back to Busch. We know that our bottom line is better. We can be the organization we want to be when we have that fan support. What does that do to fan support if you trade your closer?
Yeah, that would not be great. The other thing that I think we need to keep in mind about Helsley is when Helsley and Hicks were coming up, the Cardinals loved them in A-ball. As a matter of fact, Jordan Hicks made it right out of A-ball, right? Came to the team. The Cardinals aren't talking about a closer of the future right now. Tink Hence is hurt. They don't know about Graceffo as a closer. He might profile as a relief pitcher. But if the Cardinals believe that this young group is going to be a contender as early as next year, maybe the best thing for the Cardinals to do is go to Ryan Helsley and say, look, we'll give you 36 or 40 over 4 to be our closer for the next few years. Because granted, you can find a closer. It's a fungible position. But at the same time, you've got a guy who was the best in the league last year, is showing himself to be as good as anybody this year. Maybe the play for the Cardinals to make is to have that guy that they know can record the 27th out.
I just don't think the contract looks like that. Like I think they could go to him.
Who's the highest paid relief
That's
pitcher?
what I was just looking to look up, because I think that's a really interesting conversation. Hader, I'm seeing this from Yahoo Sports. Hader, $19 million. Edwin Diaz, 18. Racel Iglesias, 16.
Okay.
14, 13, 12 on down the line. Like Helsley's going to be paid like a top 5 reliever in baseball on an AAV basis. Yeah. I think his age is such that he can get whatever the max
Okay.
number of years is.
Presley is at 15. He's number 5.
Yeah. So like, I think he's getting 15 a year at least, unless, assuming he like finishes this season the way that he's been pitching it with an ERA around 3, whatever. Yeah. I think he's getting at least 15 over 4 or 5. Can he get 5 years for a reliever? I don't really know what that's going to look like.
It's Hader's been the best for a long time. Edwin Diaz is pitching for the Mets.
I'll put him in the Iglesias range where
14 and a half,
like
okay.
15, 16 million.
So that's a little different. If he's healthy for 2 straight years, yeah, maybe you put him in that,
because he's this close. The reason it's like you can't just say 4 years, 36 million. He's this close to free agency. He probably bets on himself. He's just got to stay healthy through the season, and then he gets that payday that relievers you wait 6 years for, and sometimes it never comes.
By the way, tied for the 10th highest paid reliever in baseball this year, one Steven Matz,
How about
$11
that?
million.
I just got to do the temperature taking thing here because I'm not saying they're going to play, top 2 ball in the NL up until the trade deadline, but let's just say they're leading the division. And
They're leading the division.
Thank you. And they start getting offers that are for a reliever of that level. Are they even listening at that point?
Are the Cardinals?
Yeah.
I don't think you can.
Depends on who they're dangling. I think you always listen.
This is what I'm
I think you
about.
listen to every single call you get, because once it hurt, you can hang up eventually.
Okay, fine. Let me phrase it differently then for you. Who says no first? If teams are calling and dangling a commiserate value for what we've seen for this level of reliever, who says no first?
The Cardinals are like this. They're like, all right, yeah, what do you got? What do you got? Go ahead. We're waiting. Go ahead. And they're going to have to be wild.
Herschel Walker trades out there, right? Because one thing about relief pitchers, there's always a good relief pitcher on a bad team.
Yep.
And I would think that you will be able to get a team that's legitimately selling to get rid of a guy. I don't know that the Cardinals, maybe things will fall to the point where they are a seller. Right now, I'm not seeing it. I kind of think that the Cardinals are probably going to be in a position where they're in the race, and they're going to, if they get that phone call, I think there's a really good chance that the Cardinals say, well, no, we're good.
Yeah, they'll go, who are you offering? Yeah, probably not. That's what I think. I don't know if that's right from a business standpoint, because I don't believe they will re-sign Ryan Helsley. And relief pitching is such a tricky thing. Like, how often does the guy you sign to that big contract from a relief standpoint pan out? Like, I get it. I love Ryan Helsley. I'd love to see him be a Cardinal for his whole career. Looking at some of these numbers, Josh Hader, when he signed a 5-year, $95 million deal, he was about the same age as Helsley is. So, like, it's comparable. Hader, probably a better track record than Helsley. So I'm not saying the numbers would be the same. Edwin Diaz was 5 over or 102 over 5. I don't know if Helsley quite gets 20, but he might get the 5 years, which would be, if it's 5 and 75, 5 and 80. The reason I'm going so into the numbers on this, I want to ask this question. Is he a qualifying offer guy? Because does that change what you would potentially think about at the deadline, where it's like, well, if you get a draft pick for Helsley, why not? And in your world, it's like, all right, if it's 22 million and he signs it, well, you got him for another year.
Right.
If not, you get the draft pick. I think he might be a qualifying offer guy, but that's an interesting line.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, some of the guys that closers that might be available at the deadline, Kyle Finnegan of Washington would be out there. I would think that because his name is always out there, Mason Miller of the Athletics will have his name out there. Kenley Jansen is still closing. He's there with the Angels this year. And there was one other one that I was looking at. Pete Fairbanks, our buddy Pete Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, there would be there's names out there for sure. The Cardinals would need, if their desire is to trade him, would need like a stretch of just Helsley pure dominance like we have seen at times. Timing is everything, I think, with this. Like, if it's coming into July and he's just lighting it up, 14 appearances in a row, no runs, 20 strikeouts, then it's like, oh, teams are going to say, yeah, we could get this other guy, but this guy is the one that's going to lead us to the World Series.
3 very good, timely chats with Eric Cleveland asking about the whole the draft pick factor. Yeah, you got to give him the QO there.
I don't know if that's for sure, but I wanted to pose it because I think it's probably in the range where, unless he has an injury between now and September, he's probably in that QO range.
I mean, listen, especially when it comes to relief pitchers and positions like that, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year contract.
You have to be willing to have him sign it if you're going to offer it to him.
Yes.
But I think your hope is like, he goes and we get a pick.
You aren't afraid of it.
to that point, Let's Turn 2, because you were throwing out numbers, so I wanted to get this chat up here from Let's Turn 2. 4-60 is the floor for the Helsley contract. If you're willing to go there, do it now. If not, it plays out the way it does, and no one should be upset given the blueprint of this season from day one.
It seems like that fan is saying you trade him. That's what it plays out the way it does means, because the blueprint was not really thinking we're going to win, but now they're winning. And so what do you do? And look, it's May 20th. 2 months can go by and the circumstances can change completely. The Cardinals don't have to decide before July the 20th what they're going to do. But if the team keeps winning like this, I think they do owe it to everybody to continue plunging forward.
Cardinals pitch Fetty against Detroit tonight. Tarek Skubal, the defending American League Cy Young Award winner, will go for the Tigers, and that's a 6:45 game that you can see on FanDuel. Kids, if you are interested in an absolutely succulent appetizer for your lunch today, if you want to have something that is savory and delicious, you need to try the trashed wings at the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park. And if you want something exquisite, if you want the best wings you'll ever have, it's the trashed wings at Fenton Bar and Grill. Look at that signature golden sauce being applied right now. Absolutely fabulous. You can get it with ranch as well. That's what I do. I get my trashed wings with the ranch, and I love everything about the Fenton Bar and Grill, starting with the wings. But they have fantastic wraps, delicious salads, juicy burgers, and a great service staff that you'll absolutely adore. Stop by and say hi to Megan and enjoy the company of Casey. The whole gang over there is so much fun. And if you've never had the trash wings, now's the time to see what the hype is about. You can get in there on Monday nights, 10 for $10. Plus, enjoy ice cold domestic bottles of beer for just $2. The weather in St. Louis is bouncing back. Head to Fenton Bar and Grill after your round of golf. Head to Fenton Bar and Grill for maybe a great business lunch, maybe for a late afternoon appetizer. Their happy hour is fantastic at the Fenton Bar and Grill. They have great bands every Friday and Saturday night, and I love it. I hang out there about once a week, and I hope you will too. Chuck, the maitre d', the 2024 maitre d' of the year in St. Louis. You're going to have a great time. It's the dive with a vibe. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill. Tell them Randy sent you. It's absolutely delicious. Have you ever had the Fenton Bar and Grill?
I have, and I'm looking at the toasted ravioli. They sprinkle a little Parmesan on there. I'm a sucker for that. I'm an appetizers guy, so you start talking about appetizers and happy hour, and I'm looking at all the options there. Yeah, I'll take the lot.
Have you guys ever gotten into the crazy Bloody Mary scene? Because they got one on here.
It's like a whole meal. Like there's a chicken wing on that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a chicken wing on there.
That is crazy. There's a lot
I've
going
never
on
gotten into they call them Caesars up in Canada. I've never gotten into the Caesar scene necessarily.
Okay.
But apparently, Fenton Bar and Grill right in there.
They're thinking outside the box. Chuck is the best. So stop by Fenton Bar and Grill. An interesting play by Juan Soto of the Mets, playing in Boston. Thought he had a home run. Actually bounced the ball off of the green monster and wound up with a single. And Mets manager Carlos Mendoza says he's going to talk to Soto about hustling out of the box after he watched that would-be home run bounce off the green monster for a single. I get it. There are players. Ronald Acuna has been benched for not hustling in the past. We saw a lot of that with Yachty and Albert over the years. It's just a thing that happens in baseball. And you know what? A guy like Soto is good enough. He'll hit a home run next time.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that it goes. He makes how much money? I know that
$765 million contract.
I know that fans are going to hear that and say, I don't care about the money. I want to see good, hard baseball. And that's a noble goal. Sometimes you're not going to get it with the guy that makes $765 million, know?
And he didn't think he had to run. He thought he had a home run.
Yeah.
He'll know more now playing in Boston. I guess with the Yankees, he played in Boston. He should know better. But it is what it is. He thought it was going to clear the wall.
And it didn't. And so he ended up at first base. And that's, hopefully something that doesn't become a trend. But if it becomes a trend, again, you're paying him for the other stuff that he does. I'm not saying you have to like it as a fan. If you're a Mets fan, curious what that fan base would think about it. But it is what it is sort of the phrase that comes to mind.
You cannot bench him, though.
No, of course not.
Brian Snitker benched Ronald Acuna, right? Acuna was 19, wasn't making any money. He wanted to send a message. If you're Carlos Mendoza and you bench Juan Soto's going to go to Steve Cohen and say, fire that man. And you're going to get whacked. So you don't bench Juan Soto. You know what? Soto might not even need to go to Cohen if Soto gets benched. Cohen might take it upon himself to go to Carlos Mendoza and say, you're fired.
Mets fans are like, why isn't he in the lineup? I came to Citi Field to see him play. I mean, that's Can't do that.
I think that you and I have the same approach here. There are going to be times over the course of a 6-month season where you just aren't going to feel it, and you aren't going to be running out of ball to first. We don't have Pete Rose anymore. We don't have guys that we have a few guys.
Yeah, some guys. You know the Cardinals have that's a guy like this. I've not ever seen Ivan Herrera dog it to first base one time.
Tries, so
he hustles every time to first base.
But there are going to, especially among the great players, there are going to be some guys that dog it once in a while, and it's part and parcel of what you have. And I know that we all pine for the days of Stan the Man, but I bet you in 24 years there was a time where Stan the Man probably took it easy going down to first base now and then.
There might have been one. He played for a long time. I wasn't there, so I don't know for sure, but I can imagine.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about Juan Soto. I will trade last night. I'll take last night because of all the home runs he's going to give me.
Yeah, the home runs and the power and the doubles and the walks he's going to get on base. And Mets fans, there was a sports radio guy in New York at the beginning of the season, a little bit of a slow start for Soto, and he said, they're not paying him to get on base. I don't care about the 400 on base percentage. And so everybody's going to have reactions and overreactions to things. I understand like I said, it's a noble thought as a fan if you're thinking they should be busting it every play. But there's a finite resource. The resource is superstar, talented athletes that are paid millions of dollars. And so, like, you can't just replace Juan Soto with the next guy when he doesn't hustle, because there's not another one that's going to provide you the value that he does. So you live with it. And as the manager, you kind of try to massage the ego and say, maybe you could. But at a certain point, if he kind of resists, you deal with it. That's why they pay the managers, to try to manage the egos.
Love you, Jeff Katubi. Steve Cohen would jackknife powerbomb Carlos Mendoza through a table if he benches Juan Soto.
There you go.
No doubt about it.
I agree. It's pretty good.
By the way, Juan Soto, according to Major League Baseball, no surprise here, is the highest paid player in the game. Now, here's an interesting thing. His salary this year, $61.875 million. This is as calculated by the Major League Baseball Labor Relations Department for this year. Soto, again, $61,875,000, almost $62 million. Look at number 2, Zach Wheeler, $42 million. Soto's making about $20 million more than the number 2 guy. Also look at this, and notice there are no Cardinals on this list, Brendan.
No, there are not.
But you have Wheeler at $42 million. So Soto has played the full season. Wheeler has played the full season. Judge is third, has played the full season. Jacob deGrom, after having 9 games in 2 years, has already started 9 games this year. That's a good thing. Tied for third. Then you get to the fun part.
No.
Anthony Rendon, 0% of the games. He's played 0%. Carlos Correa has played in 41 of 47 games this year.
But
he's number 6.
But he just went on the IL.
Yeah. Mike Trout. Here's another angel. How about that? So you've got Rendon 5th, Trout 7th. Trout has been on the IL since early in the season. He's played in 29 of the Angels' 46 games, and he's at 61%. Then Cole is not going to play this year.
Yeah.
Altuve's been fine, 45 of 47 games, so he's great. And then Corey Seager has played in 26 of 48 games. Man, you look, that's 54%. Sometimes those big contracts can get a little dicey if the guy gets hurt, or in Anthony Rendon's case, if they hate baseball.
Is there a worse contract in sports history than Rendon?
I'm not sure.
There have been a lot of bad ones. I'm sure you could come out. Rendon is right up there at the top because, as you said, I don't know, not so fond of the game and playing it every day.
Yeah. So we want to hear from you, best and worst. I would say this, and I told you guys before the show started, I think Zach Wheeler is a bargain. Zach Wheeler never pitched for the Mets. He was hurt with the Giants, got traded actually for Carlos Beltran, and was with the Mets and rarely, if ever, pitched for them. Then he gets traded right before his contract is up, pitches well down the stretch, and then signs the big deal with the Phillies, and he's been sensational for them. He's been durable. He probably, with the aging out of Scherzer and Verlander, I would say Zach Wheeler would be probably this year with Cole hurt. He's my number one. I think if I were going to take a starting pitcher in baseball, I think Wheeler would be my one. So the $42 million, I think, is a really good deal for the Phillies.
And the reliability that you mentioned, he led the league in innings in 21, but then at 153, 192, 200, and he's currently leading the league in innings at 64. Like, to have that happen over 5 straight years, That's a great contract. And I mean, he even threw a pretty good amount in 2020. The COVID year was his first year with the Phillies. That's rarely do you see a contract pan out that favorably when it's that high dollar. But yeah, credit to Zach Wheeler and to the Phillies for identifying the right guy to go ahead and pay up for. And it's definitely worked out.
He is a horse. So if I could give you one of these contracts, one of these guys to put on the Cardinals, and obviously the money's not an object. Bill DeWitt says, you just pick out one of the top 10 contracts, Brendan, and I'm going to get that guy and we're going to put him on the team. Who are you going to get?
Well, not Wheeler now because he's 35.
Uh-huh.
And so that's going to,
Yep.
It's probably Judge or Soto. Yeah. I mean, if money's no object, Judge might be doing this for a number of years still.
Yeah,
he's something
in his
else.
30s now.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
I mean, but so you're telling me money's no object, and I'm still looking at that 61, feeling bad for the DeWitts. Like, I don't know, that is a lot of money. he didn't run that ball out over the green monster.
Yeah.
I kind of
That's the guy I'm taking, though.
That's got to be Juan Soto.
26 years old.
Yep.
And yeah, so we can get whoever we want. And left-handed pop.
Yeah.
Fits
really well. I mean.
So yeah, I'm with you. I would.
All right,
take
so
that one.
we identified why he's making $20 million more than the next guy because his age curve and what he provides is the value is going to be there. Like, I don't know if that's going to be a contract that we look back and say works out. I think the Mets have to win a World Series for that to be true. But that's why you do that. That's why you sign a guy like that to that number, because you're trying to win a World Series with him.
Doovie says, shame on both of you. Don't make excuses for begun lazy. I don't care who you are. It sets a poor example for his teammates. Besides, he didn't run out a ground ball the other day. He could have beat out. I'm just saying it happens.
I told you it was a noble goal. Like, Doovie, it's a noble thought that you have.
Yeah.
It's not realistic. It's not reality, because there's one guy in baseball making his kind of money. What are you going to do? What's your punitive measure to get him to cooperate? You have to be a good massager of personalities. That's all Carlos Mendoza can do. He can do his level best, and then it is what it is. If he doesn't listen, there's one guy. The numbers are on the screen, making $61 million a year. It is what it is. I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. It's just what it is.
Let's turn to, how about Ohtani not even in the top 10? That deferred money to manipulate the luxury tax is nuts. He's at $18 million this year.
Yeah,
so he's not in there. I'm old school, by the way, and so Matthew and I have worked together for many years now. How many years? What, 2 or 3, something like that? 3 years. And I'm an older guy, Doovie, and so I come from a time when work ethic was important and bringing it every day was important. And Matthew can be completely honest here. And Matthew, have I given 100% every single day? Yeah,
that would go against your ethos.
It certainly would. It certainly would.
That would go against everything you've ever said, right?
Yes,
Come on now.
So, Brendan, I think as a young man, you'll appreciate this. Never, ever give 100%, because then management starts to expect it.
Oh, okay.
Doovie? There you go. Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother.
Pretty good.
Kurt Martin, nobody is worth this money. Soto is so overpaid and overrated. Here's the thing, and it's a lot of money. It's an unbelievable amount of money. Think about this. I was thinking this the other day when Brock Purdy signed. That Brock Purdy signed for $53 million a year, and thinking that, let's see, about 18 years ago, Mark Bulger signed a $46.5 million contract. Oh, the whole contract, 46.5. And Purdy signs for $53 million a year. But it doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what you think. Steve Cohen thinks that he's worth $765 million and $61,875,000 this year. He's worth it because Steve Cohen says so, and he's paying him that.
And he's in the market, and the market decided that it was, because if he didn't pay him that, he might be a Yankee. He might be on another team that offered him a contract a little bit below that, or maybe some different perks, whatever the case may be. When multiple entities are bidding for the services of someone, and he signs somewhere, he's worth what the guy that won the bidding paid, because that's how the market works.
But man, you talk about, and I had a conversation one time with Eric Davis, of all people. Because we were talking about Eric Davis, smart, good guy. And he was making $4.5 million that year with the Cardinals. And I had thought about it. So I was prepared to talk to him about it, because we'd talked about it before. And we were talking about players being overpaid. And I said, I don't think you're overpaid. But my point is this. I think you have trouble relating, because somebody who works from the time they're 20 to the time they're 65, and this was in 2000, so it's 25 years ago. but somebody who works from the time they're 20 till they're 65, and averages $100,000 a year over a good career, and that's a good amount of money to make $100,000 a year for your entire career. I said that person in their career makes as much as you're making this year on the downside of your career. He was making 4.5. The person that makes $100,000 for 45 years makes 4.5.
Yeah.
And I think players have trouble sometimes recognizing how much money they're making. Some appreciate it. Bulger is a guy that totally appreciated and thought about how ridiculous it was that he, not ridiculous, but how great it was that he was able to take advantage of the system and get what he wanted. But I think sometimes, especially now, because the minimum salary is $765 and you get to $1.5 million so quickly when you're a baseball player, I think sometimes players have, and it's not their fault necessarily, difficulty relating to what a normal person is earning.
Yeah, I think, and that is just common sense that it would be that way. I can't blame those guys for having those difficulties because, when did you fall into that money? What were your circumstances growing up? Like it's probably been a minute. And at first it's probably a culture shock, but then you sort of, everybody just sort of adapts to what their lives are. And so you kind of get used to it. And then, when you've got the guy in section 235 going, you got to run it out to first base. Like he's right. That's what that guy should be saying. But then we're sitting here going, well, when that doesn't happen, understand maybe the why behind that. Don't have to be happy about it, but it explains it, I guess.
Anybody saying that they know how they would act if their entire life.
Oh, I know how I would act.
Children's lives and their children's lives were taken care of.
Stay humble, Rock.
You can't say that you would because every number tells us that you're wrong, because if you were right, every lotto winner wouldn't fail miserably.
No, those people.
Almost every lotto winner
disagree.
Winds up broke because people, the average person, and even more so than the average, the majority of people do not know how to react to that much money.
So here's what I'm going to do when I win the lottery tonight.
Oh, see, this is what Randy's like. Exhibit A.
No, I'm not. But here's what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll tell you guys, and so eventually you'll all find out, right? But I know of a financial advisor here in town that works with people that make a lot of money, and I'm going to go to her and I'm going to say, okay, I won the lottery, haven't turned in the ticket yet, but what do I do? And I'm just going to follow advice. It's going to be like I'm a pitcher throwing to Yachty. I'm going to take every single piece of advice. I'm going to nod yes and do it.
That's pretty good. And to Rock's point, I don't agree with his assessment. Yes, the lotto winners, a lot of them, they don't end up doing well. Let me try. I'll show you. I'll show you how you do it. It's actually pretty easy. I'll show you, and it'll be very similar to Randy's point. You find the people you trust that know what they're talking about, and you follow their advice, and you keep quiet for the most part. Get your bearings a little bit, and don't change your life so drastically. Do it gradually. Yep. I think it would be super easy. Let me try. I'll prove it to you. If anybody wants to let me run this experiment, I will do it in the name of science.
What if those people are good at like a normal amount of money, but then all of a sudden you ask them for advice on a gob amount, like a crap ton.
Okay,
so about the term, and all of a sudden they kind of lose their head. Their trust factor maybe goes out the window because you're trusting them not with $5,000 to help you invest, but now you're trusting them with $500,000.
I got somebody.
I don't worry about the investment. You know what? If it's that much money, I probably don't even need to invest it. It's just going to be going to be squirreled away, and then you don't. No.
You have to invest it.
My mortgage payment, I can afford it as it is right now.
You're going to move to a bigger house.
Oh, dude, I could afford my mortgage payment easily. I'm not coming here next Tuesday.
To a bigger house.
I mean, I'll tell you that. Why?
Do you think?
Because you will.
You live on Easy Street at that point. Just chill for a sec.
No, you're not going to do that.
Whatever. Try. Yeah. If anyone's volunteering, I will run this experiment to show Rock, just like I did with the free throws. Do you guys? Somebody
did Juan Soto pay cash for his condo in New York City? I think. I bet he did.
Good question.
Probably. It's either he paid
a loan, right?
It's either he paid cash or he financed it all, so they didn't have to pay a dime.
Interest rates are high, but do they even think in those terms?
No.
Like, well, the interest rates. No. Who cares? Just pay for it.
Yeah, let's just get it. Hey, if you want to get a little bit more extra money in your pocket, then I advise you to check out DraftKings Pick 6, because when you play baseball at DraftKings Pick 6, all you need to do is use your baseball expertise. Here's the way it works. It's really easy, and it's a great way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Pick 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat on any given night. Pick 6 is available in most states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Missouri, and more. And there is so much out there that you can have fun with when you bet at DraftKings Pick 6, where the crown is yours. So let me give you an example tonight, because baseball is really fun. Obviously, you can do basketball. We're in the conference finals for basketball and hockey, so that's really fun. But I found a fun one today, and it was strikeouts. So I'm going to go with Spencer Strider back. I know people don't believe in him yet. Spencer Strider, 5.5 against the Nationals, 5.5 Ks. I'm going to go Spencer Strider, more than 5.5 Ks against the Washington Nationals. That seems pretty safe. Wouldn't you guys agree?
It's never safe, but it seems like a good one because of the fact that he tends to rack up strikeouts. I like it.
He does. And then the other one I'm going to do is our guy, Eric Fetty, who's going against the Tigers lineup tonight. And I'm going to go with Fetty with more than 4.5 Ks. Fetty's been pitching well, so I'm going to go with him. I'm going to play the home.
Why are you laughing, Rock? Okay.
Okay. Good. And it's all on DraftKings Pick 6. Download the app, the DraftKings Pick 6 app. Use that promo code right there, STL Sports. When you make your first bet of $5, you get $50 in Pick 6 credits. And it's super easy and it's super fun. Again, the promo code is STL Sports. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, Brendan, being in the podcast space and the talk radio space, do you enjoy the Twitter beef?
Who's beefing?
Ryan Clark and RG3.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that. This is the Caitlin Clark stuff, right?
Yeah, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and we're the perfect 2 white guys to talk about it.
I got my Indiana hat on today. I was
okay.
I was boots on the ground in Indianapolis this weekend when this game was being played, so I am uniquely qualified. No, I was not in the building to watch the game. I found out like that day. It was Saturday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. It's 1 o'clock. I see all these 22 jerseys walking around Indy. I'm like, are they playing today? Like, is it WNBA season? I have no idea when that would be. So I Google it, and sure as shooting, they're playing, and I see they're playing Chicago, and I'm pretty sure that's Angel Reese's team. And I Google that, and I'm right. And so I'm like, man, that would actually be kind of interesting to go.
Fun.
I would like to go to this. And so I asked my wife, and she's like, you want to go to the women's basketball game? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's unique. Trust me, I know that I normally don't talk a lot about the WNBA, but this is actually kind of, she said, one sporting event per anniversary trip.
Okay.
And we were going to a baseball game Sunday. So, no, we did not end up going to this game.
Okay, well, you missed out because they had a kerfuffle. And as a matter of fact, I think we have moved beyond kerfuffle in this one, Matthew. Would you say this is a brouhaha? Oh, yeah. Okay, so kerfuffle is like the lower level, then it moves up to a brouhaha.
When the white when it's full on, when you got the R word being thrown out at a lot of people, and the wives then get brought in on a second level of the conversation.
And the R word isn't Ryan Clark.
The second
or
level
Robert
of the conflict happen. You got multiple Clarks in here. Yeah, it's a full brouhaha.
Yeah. Ryan Clark and RG3 brouhaha. Maybe
Real
just a
brouhaha.
kerfuffle with the players themselves.
Okay, so I'm sure you saw the foul. It's been all over the place. The Caitlin Clark on Angel Reese foul turned into a flagrant one. They both say that it's a basketball play. But Robert Griffin III, even though they both say it's a basketball play, says after watching Caitlin Clark's flagrant foul on Angel Reese and the aftermath, there is no way Angel Reese can continue the lie that she doesn't dislike Caitlin Clark. I know what hatred looks like. Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark, not some basketball rivalry hate either. Hate. So RG3 reading the mind of Angel Reese. Okay, so Ryan Clark takes to his podcast and notes that Robert Griffin III has a white wife. And Ryan Clark had this to say about Robert Griffin III and what he said about Angel Reese hating on Caitlin Clark.
RG3 is he's not having conversations at his home about what Black women have to endure in this country, about what young Black women and athletes like Angel Reese have had to deal with being on the opposite side of Caitlin Clark's rise and ascension into stardom. Now, when you look at it, I think A'ja Wilson is the face of the league. A'ja Wilson is the best player in the league. Caitlin Clark is the most important player in the WNBA. And a ton of her fandom has come along with some racial bias or some racial pieces to why people love her so much. And so now if you're RG3, when is the last time within your household you've had a conversation about what she's dealing with? You haven't been able to do that because in both of your marriages, you've been married to white women. You haven't had opportunities to have those conversations to educate you on what they're feeling, what Black women deal with, what they're seeing when they think of a young Angel Reese. And the whole time that he's mimicking Angel Reese and bobbing his head and moving his neck while he's doing this whole piece, his wife is in the back amening and clapping. And so to me, it's just another situation that now this young lady has to deal with. When I worked with RG3, he would make all of these sort of corny jokes about milk and how much he loved it and how important it was. And he always points out on social media the color of his wife's skin, as if the color of her skin is what makes her special, as if the color of her skin is what makes her a good wife. I've met the lady, I've had a conversation with her. Right. I think she's more than that. But it also leads to what Black women deal with a lot from Black men who have chose to date or marry outside of their race.
All right, so that is Ryan Clark.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty
It got
powerful.
very personal, though. I mean, it's very interesting.
And so Robert Griffin III responded and said on Twitter, "There's a line that you don't cross in life," and Ryan Clark sprinted past it. Ryan Clark didn't like my take on Angel Reese hating Caitlin Clark. That's fine. Disagreement is part of the game. But instead of debating my point, he personally attacked me and my family. That shows how low of a person he is. I gave a sports opinion. I said Angel Reese hates Caitlin Clark based on repeated visible actions on the court and in press conferences. I backed it up with 5 separate examples from the game of basketball because that's what I do. I analyze sports. I stay in the arena. He went on to write, a Black man or woman is not restricted from giving a sports opinion on another Black man or woman just because you don't like it. And he pointed out that he does have 2 Black daughters. And I assume now that Ryan Clark is kind of holding his ground, and he says that he's not going to back down off of this. I think that if, and there's the latest from Ryan Clark, he just doesn't like RG3. So after this tweet where he said that he protected him on Monday Night Football, he said, didn't attack your wife. I spoke on what you do on social media and TV. Like I said, I met your wife and she seemed like a lovely lady that was worth more than the color of her skin. You be good, bruh. And then when he got a lot of blowback, Ryan Clark tweeted, in no way tripping on any of it. Know exactly who I am, know what I said, why I said it, and who I said it for. I can live with everything else. And then he's got like 4,000 responses to that. So this is a brouhaha. If Will Smith were part of this, he'd say, you keep my wife's name out of your mouth. And then he would have slapped him. But I do think that if I'm going to read this particular situation, I do think that if I were to pick an irresponsible one here, it would be Ryan Clark.
Yeah, I like, again, like just hearing those comments for the first time. I had seen them written down, but like hearing him, watching the podcast video of it as we showed, definitely got in straight into like a personal territory. And I can even understand like where Ryan Clark is coming from. I don't necessarily agree, because honestly, I do think that Angel Reese doesn't like Caitlin Clark. I don't know about hate, but I don't think she likes her. I think we have seen, examples of that. And now, post game, her just kind of going, it's a basketball play, let's move on, I think is the right way to approach that, to try to let this issue die down. But in the moment when she's being fouled after, Caitlin Clark, if you watch that play, was gesturing because Angel Reese kind of popped Aaliyah Boston and was like, well, anybody going to see this? And so when Angel Reese ends up with the ball under the basket, Caitlin mugs her because that's what, she says to take foul. I'm not going to let her have the layup. And like, even if there was a little bit more to it than that, even if it was a little bit retaliatory to what Angel Reese kind of did to her teammate moments prior, that's part of what happens in sports as well. And like the referees assess what they think they should assess as a result of that. But like Angel Reese's response of like in the moment, you can tell she was not, she was ready to have more conversation about it than Caitlin Clark was ready to have. And I think that none of what I saw surprised me. So like if I'm thinking about through it, like RG3 too, if he's a sports analyst that wants to analyze that, like perfectly within his bounds to do it.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Clark is within his bounds to say what he said, but like when you do that, when you talk very personally in that nature about someone who is very prominent as well on social media, podcasting, and etc., RG3 is going to come back the other way, and like this is going to be the result of that. So everybody should be comfortable with that.
The one thing I would wonder is, because it doesn't appear as if these two are fast friends.
No.
How does Ryan Clark know that Robert Griffin III's wife was standing in the background and clapping? And he also said they don't have conversations about the plight of black women in their household. How does he know that?
That's
because
hard to.
What Robert Griffin III said was, Clark claimed that I'm not having conversations about the struggles of black women in my own home because that's wrong and way out of bounds. We also raise black daughters together and don't teach them to hate people or disqualify their opinions based on the color of their skin. I think there were elements of what Ryan Clark said that were, as Robert Griffin would call it, out of bounds.
Yeah, but I can also understand Ryan Clark both these gentlemen have a very different perspective on the world than I have. Look at me. Like, I don't, even to speak on it, like I clearly have to understand my limitations in talking about this. But I also think if we're going to say like, hey, it's fair game to kind of go back and forth. Yeah, I'm looking at what RG3 said, and I'm saying I don't honestly disagree with a lot of what he said in his analysis of the situation. And the first person to then take it to a very personal level, like if he had,
that's the key.
If he had been in a certain way toward Angel Reese and made it like a, I didn't see that. I didn't see it very personal toward Angel Reese in a racial way. You bring up the R word, like that's what's being discussed here. I didn't necessarily get that from RG3, but I can understand that Ryan Clark might have a different interpretation than me as a white guy that's talking about this in St. Louis. But all that being said, I'm kind of with you where Ryan Clark did seem to go over a line. He may have felt justified in doing that, but he did cross that line.
And his tweet made it seem as if he has some lingering issues with Robert
from their time working together
at ESPN.
Yeah, and I think that's probably accurate too.
So the Twitter beef is always fun, but it's kind of immature. I think that it would have been better. I'm sure that Ryan Clark has access to Robert Griffin III's contact info, could have texted him or sent him an email, didn't have to use, but how many clicks is Ryan Clark getting for that Pivot podcast today?
It is great podcast fodder and content for him, and that's like the style of podcast, his podcast. And I like Ryan Clark. I think his podcast tackles those issues coming from a perspective that I couldn't do that podcast because I can't speak on that in the way that somebody like Ryan Clark could. And so I think for his audience, that's certainly very germane to the type of entertainment and podcasting that he does. So I actually don't have an issue from either side with all of this happening and being out in the ether. I think also, though, it's fair to weigh in and say, all right, this is like, don't be surprised if you're Ryan Clark that this was the reaction from the other side when you begin to talk about someone's family.
DC3, thank you for the tweet about Napheesa Collier. Speaking of the WNBA, we need to give Napheesa Collier, incarnate word, much more love. She's a beast. She absolutely is.
She's like 32, 8, and 5 on the opening night.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's fantastic. And also a big part of the Players Association in the WNBA as well, as they work towards making more money as they should. These women now are drawing big numbers. There's a big new TV contract, and the women deserve much more money. Let me just run down some of your tweets, though, or some of your I got to figure out what to call these things. Some of your chats, okay?
You just talk to him in the plural. Just say, how are we doing, chat? What's going on today, chat? I want to hear that from Randy.
Jay Reinegade, Clark Reese beef is the best thing to happen to the WNBA and, forever. Don't disagree. From Rambo Mode 92, Ryan Clark is a professional race baiter. This from Doovie. Reese took a soccer dive big time. Mason Wynn, WNBA, has it ever made a profit? I think they're on their way to making a profit now. There were a lot of money losing years. And there was one other one talking that I wanted to get to. Asia Wilson, by the way, is a stud. Do I call her a stud or do I call her something else? I don't know.
But she's awesome.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's a beast also. Anyway, the fact that this has turned the WNBA, I agree with the idea that this rivalry, let's call it a rivalry, has made the NBA more relevant than it's ever been.
Yeah, think about on the men's side in the NBA, when there are players that are the face of their respective teams in a rivalry, and then there is extracurriculars that go on, or there's elite competition that goes on. I mean, Caitlin Clark had a triple-double in the game. Like, that's good on the men's side. And so on the women's side, you want personalities, and whether or not whatever side you pick, that's part of sports as well. And I don't think the WNBA should be out of bounds. It feels like we're a lot of times the way that we cover or talk about it is like, oh, you have to be careful because it's women's. It's not the same. If they want to be treated in a way as their league that gets the reputation and the notoriety and the conversation surrounding it, like, that is part of the evolution that I think the WNBA will continue to go through, and we'll talk about it more because you have those personalities driving it. Whether they want to lead into it in the post-game press conference or not, it's still going to be there, and that's good for the league, whether they think it is or not.
Agreed. Rob Sims, Ryan Clark worked his way onto my muted words list on X this week. Can you have a muted word? I didn't know we could.
You can.
I gotta find that.
You can mute words.
Okay.
It's deep in the settings somewhere.
Okay, I will find that. Rob, thank you very much for that little bit of info. That's good. Good to know.
Now, granted, I don't know how well it will work given who's running the thing these days, but you can try. You're welcome to try to mute the words.
Okay, we will absolutely give that a try. That is pretty cool. Hey, you know what? We've got a cool thing happening at Hot Shots coming up on November 1st, or November. No, not November.
Not
1st.
November. It'll
It's
be sooner
June
than
1st. We are going to have a great party at Hot Shots, and we want you to stop by because it's Hot Shots' 35th anniversary. And Hot Shots, the spectacular sponsor of our post-game shows here on Sports Hub STL, invites you to come out to their St. Charles location on Sunday, June 1st to celebrate that 35th anniversary. Starts at noon. Clydesdales are going to be there. You can get pictures taken with the Clydesdales. You'll be able to win prizes all day long. A darts tournament at noon. That's what Hot Shots is partially famous for. Plus a bags tournament at 2, a chance to win Hot Shots tacos for a year. All you have to do is win that Hot Shots taco eating contest at their St. Charles location. Plus, you can meet Rizzuto and Rafe. You can get great drinks from celeb bartenders from City SC. The fun starts at noon. Congratulations to Hot Shots on 35 years. Matthew, did you want to weigh in here?
Yes, because Brandon, I'm very sorry to hear, but you missed it by a day. Tomorrow they'll be bringing us Hot Shots tacos.
Oh,
Thank you, Hot Shots. You're the best.
Is this the contest, or is that
We're
saved
not,
for June the
unfortunately,
1st?
Yeah, I got shot down for doing a taco eating contest tomorrow. On the air,
Okay.
Unfortunately, if he brings enough, I guess apparently we can do an impromptu one if we have enough quantity. So maybe we do a taco eating contest tomorrow. But I'm sorry, Brendan, you missed it.
That's okay.
We're eating Hot Shots tacos tomorrow. Let's go.
Hot Shots, St. Louis home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com.
We also got a comment here in the chat. B-Shape mentioned his free throw skills. Will Sutton said, what happened with B-Shape and free throws? Willing to challenge you, I guess he's trying to say, to a free throw competition in the name of science. Well,
I didn't need to beat Will Sutton in free throws.
Yes,
that wasn't part of the deal.
Yes. The long and short of it is I didn't think B-Shape could hit above 70 out of 100 free throws. B-Shape said, fine, put the camera on, and he hit it over 70.
I think it was 73, 75, something like that.
It was honestly insane.
But my argument was I could roll into the gym, no practice, no warm-up, and just do it, and I did.
It was nuts that you did that.
This has been years. I don't know if I could still do it.
It was ridiculous.
Free throws are free. Make your free throws, kids.
I have one other thing, because we were talking about how ridiculous this is, and somebody sent me something about with all the crazy stuff going on with Clark and Reese. Somebody sent me something, honestly, just one of the most insane things I've ever seen on Twitter. And so we haven't done this in a while, but we're going to do a little parts unknown because somebody sent me this ridiculous tweet. Dan Hopper on Twitter pulled an example of how sports writers used to write in the 1930s. So this is a writer talking about Joe DiMaggio. Italians, bad at war, are well suited for milder competition. Life would write of DiMaggio in what was intended as a laudatory 1939 profile. This is supposed to be positive. Although he learned Italian first, Joe, now 24, speaks English without an accent and is otherwise well adapted to most U.S. mores. Instead of olive oil or smelly bear grease, he keeps his hair slick with water. He never reeks of garlic and prefers chicken chow mein to spaghetti. What in God's name?
That was a different time. Oh, wasn't America great then?
Listen, I will always happily smell of garlic. It makes me a happier person, and I'm sorry for the people around me, but it makes me happy, and I don't care what you say.
It's all about you being
It's
happy.
all about me
That's
being
That's
happy.
quite the article.
Every
though. I'll
once
have
in a
to give
while,
it
I'll come across stuff like this, and I'm like, God, I hate this site, but sometimes it just puts out pure just brilliance.
Yeah, it was almost
What the
100 years
hell?
ago.
They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
Quite the takeaway from the moment.
Yeah,
But
no,
thank
I
you.
never played the game, but I make it a lot more enjoyable for people to watch.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mercy.
I couldn't help myself. That popped up, and I was like, "This is ridiculous."
Okay, I got to get to this, guys. The
Oh,
NFL is going to vote today, NFL owners, to allow players to participate in the 2028 Olympic flag football competition.
There we go.
Okay, so we're 3 years away from that.
Yeah.
But let's just take players who are playing right now and say that we could have a flag football competition this offseason, okay? Is our quarterback anybody other than Lamar Jackson?
Probably not. Because part of what makes Josh Allen great is to bowl people over, and in this, you just want shiftiness.
Mhm.
So among NFL players, probably not. Lamar Jackson, right? When Jay Daniels, I would actually
Jane
put
Daniels will be fun.
Jaden Daniels in the conversation.
Is there somebody who played college quarterback who has moved now to a different position that we're overlooking that might actually be better?
Be better than Lamar or Jaden Daniels.
Lamar can wing it too.
He can wing
Yeah.
it too. I'm just throwing it out
Yeah.
there because those guys. I mean, guys like Julian Edelman. Yes, they're not as fast as Lamar. Yes, they're not as good as quarterbacks. But are they more evasive in a flag football
they are
scenario?
not. I can tell you they are not.
Not Julian Edelman. You know what I'm talking about, though. I'm just saying is quickness and
So-
speed are different things. is all I'm saying.
Yeah, but Lamar is a lock because he's quick and
Okay,
fast and
fair
elusive. Okay, so there's our there's our quarterback.
Milroe. Jalen Milroe is a good point.
He's another bigger sort. Yeah,
Yeah.
he would be a nice backup, but I'm going with Lamar.
I'll take Jaden Daniels.
Okay.
I'm in on him.
I think I would go with Tyreek Hill as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
You get a pair of wide receivers.
He's twitchy.
The cheetah.
Yeah.
And you know who else? That Xavier Worthy, man.
Oh, for sure.
You know, he'll be a flag football guy, won't he?
Yeah, and so like there's rules around this where it's only one guy per NFL team per national team, and so how they like you're not going to pair up, Mahomes and Worthy like that
Okay.
wouldn't be a thing. You couldn't do that on the same if they're playing for both team, USA or whatever. That you couldn't do that.
You only get one NFL player per country.
Per national team, per NFL team. So like you can't have two Chiefs on the USA team, or you can't have
got
two
it, okay.
Raiders on the. Not that you want two Raiders on anything, but on
Okay.
Team Switzerland,
So
you
I
wouldn't
need-
be able to do that.
If I've got 7 players, it's 7 on 7 basically. I got to have them from 7 different NFL teams.
Technically, on like for Team USA, that's accurate.
Yes.
But that's not the only limiting factor. I have a hot take on this. I don't know if I've
Okay,
shared
go
this
ahead.
over
Yeah,
here.
let's let her rip.
I'm not convinced that the teams will just be made up of a bunch of NFL guys. There's guys who play this flag football thing professionally, and they're
They're adamant.
the
that they will make
quarterback's
the team.
name is Doucette,
Mhm.
and he is adamant that the NFL players aren't coming to take his job.
Yep.
Now, granted, this guy's like 35 or 6, so he'll be even older when this happens in 2028. But like the way the NFL is voting on this, they're voting that the players are allowed to do the tryout.
Yeah,
so there will be a
right.
tryout. My thought is this: I don't think you have anyone from an NFL team that is on these rosters other than like cornerbacks, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. Because I think it's 10-man rosters. Some of the guys play both ways. Like this quarterback Doucette, that's like the best flag football quarterback. He's also a cornerback. He plays both ways because that's what the roster sizes demand. I don't know if maybe I'm overthinking it, but I kind of trust that there are different skills associated with flag football versus like tackle football in full pads. So I'm not 100% convinced it'll just be NFL guys. It might be some random guys you've never heard of who are really good at flag football specifically.
I wonder if
Hot take.
Travis Hunter will try out.
Not a lot of two-way players in the league.
Would be. I mean, I think
I
he would
love
be a
it.
really obvious candidate to have the skill set to be good at flag football because he could obviously cover anybody and he could probably get out of his breaks and catch the ball too.
Okay, so give us a running back idea. That's in
Because
the
like Derrick
NFL.
Henry's not. You don't.
DC3 says Bijan is the quickest running back in the league.
Bijan's pretty quick.
Bijan
yeah.
would be really good. I'm thinking like missed tackle guys. Like Bucky Irving, could he be pretty good? He's kind of.
But he's missed tackles in that he runs through arm tackles.
a Kane.
Because
Yeah,
you got to
yeah.
not get your flag grabbed. That's the key
Yeah.
in all of this. It's the guys who are like converted wide receiver, running back types.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be the guys that I would take in flag football.
Debo Luther Burden.
Yes, actually, I think that there's some validity to both those names.
Yep. You know who the best guy ever would have been for this is Marshall.
Marshall would have been. Oh God, he was playing flag
Everybody
football out there in
recruited
the
him as a
first place.
cornerback except for San Diego State.
That's true.
Here's one. Give me like 5'5" Deuce Vaughn for the Cowboys because his flag will be lower to the ground.
Yeah,
to the ground.
Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if the 49ers are going to
Christian McCaffrey will not be playing. I can promise you. I can promise
49ers
you.
aren't
Like
gonna want him
you want
playing
like the
any
you want like
extra.
the Darren Sproles type of guys,
Jimmy
right?
Gibbs.
That's what you're. Gibbs would be great. Gibbs would be fantastic. How many of these guys are going to want to do it though? Versus
I think a lot.
I think they'll want to, but then there's also like imagine the outcry if a star player gets injured in this.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Inevitable.
I mean, it'll be a big time story.
But I mean, Matthew Tkachuk got hurt in the Four Nations Classic, and
It wasn't a great situation.
no,
I
but
mean,
I think guys, and maybe this will be different. But I wonder if the guys at some level are going to enjoy the idea of not just playing flag football, but playing with the USA across their chest.
I mean, that was certainly a thing for when you had the World Baseball Classic, and obviously, you know,
Waino got hurt.
Waino, I mean, that was a lifelong dream fulfilled for him to be able to participate in that and wear the Team USA colors.
I really hope that B-Shape's right and that there's 2 or 3 guys on this roster at least who are not NFL players. That would make me so happy. The discussions would be hilarious. The discourse would be honestly annoying probably, but fun in a lot of ways when you're not on your For You page. It'll be a lot of fun if there's like 4 or 5 guys.
My earnest belief is if part of this tryout, give the NFL guys, and again, this is because there are multiple countries this is the Olympics. It's not just USA. It'll be like World Baseball Classic where you're like, oh, you know, Tommy Edman, Lars Nootbaar, they're eligible to participate for other countries because of their heritage, and guys will take the opportunity to do that. I believe it will be the same in the NFL, that will, you know, guys will be, and there's also designated international players that will also be able to participate for their, you know, home countries, and that will be a good thing for the sport in general. I think if you did it this way, the NFL, I'm talking strictly Team USA, find your best 7 from the NFL against the current national team of flag football. I don't think the NFL guys will just win it going away. The national team of flag football might win that game, which would then beg the question, like, who should be on the team when they're representing the Olympics? Is it more about best chance? This was what it was with the women's basketball in the Olympics, right? People said Caitlin Clark should be on the team because she's the biggest draw, and they're probably going to win the gold anyway. So, like, would you sacrifice, even if she's not the, you know, top 10 player in the country, she's worth it because that's going to add to the sport and add to the way that people view it and take those games in. For this, I think it's going to be similar. The NFL guys are probably going to get precedent. I don't know if that's right necessarily. I'm sticking up for the guys that you don't know their names, but they might be really damn good at flag football. It's a different sport.
If you want to bring eyes, I think you got to have NFL players.
And you're right. That's what's probably going to happen. But I think they're also going to want to pay a little bit of respect to, like Rock said, there's going to be a couple. Right. There's going to be some names where you're like, this guy's going to get the opportunity because we're going to be able to showcase. The NFL wants this, by the way. The NFL wants flag to be showcased because that gets more kids playing football. That's a thing because it can kind of be the gateway into people playing this sport for long term when there's all the concussion concerns. Like, this is a strategic thing as well.
And
Don't
it
forget
helps
about that.
Globalize the sport.
100%.
They're into Europe. They've got Europe's attention.
Yeah.
But now this takes them into Asia. It gets them more into China.
Well,
There's a lot of advantages for the National Football League.
Speaking of going west instead of east, my thing is I really wish there was a way that we could we could have the storyline of like Jordan Mailata trying to like drag the Australia team to victory against the United States, but it's flag football, so there won't be any possibility for that. So I can't wait until maybe when I'm you know in my 40s or 50s and football eventually takes over the planet, we can have actual tackle football in the Olympics.
That'll be
then
fun.
we can have a bunch of just like the New Zealand teams just like, yeah, we're going to run the football 50 times. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Try us.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah. Mason Wynn, Belichick and Jordan can coach the Olympic flag football team. That'll draw some
Are you
fans.
seeing the rumors
What's the rumors, Rock?
that he put a ring on it?
Oh,
There's rumors that he put
Marriage?
a ring on it. There's rumors that he might have put a ring on it.
Who?
Belichick.
Oh,
I
wow.
haven't
I haven't
seen
seen
that, no.
anything confirmed yet, but I mean, this whole thing's ridiculous, so might as well just dive into it with rumors.
Take it or leave it. You would be shocked
No.
once it happens that Belichick and Jordan would get engaged before Kelsey and Swifty.
It's pretty
I'm
good.
not surprised at all.
Wouldn't be shocked. I thought you were going to say, would I be shocked if Bill Belichick coaches a game this year? And the answer to that would be yes. I would be.
I think he's going to coach. I think he is.
I do not see it. I don't know how, but I just don't see it.
Well, come on. He's got a coach there. Who else are they going to get?
It's not about them. It's
Jeff
just
Saturday.
That's what we talked about last week.
Yeah,
I think
right.
Jeff Saturday would be perfect. I don't think he coaches a game there. That's going to be my hot take. I'm going to stick to it. If I'm wrong, I will live with the result of that. But I just don't see it. There's going to be some way that it's going to fizzle. It's going to not happen.
Yeah.
Honestly, they're slipping up. If they how they're not watching this show, first of all,
They are.
North Carolina, ridiculous. But if they didn't hear us go, if the light bulb didn't ding above their head, like, oh yeah, we just got to call Jeff Saturday. They haven't done it yet by now. They're screwing this thing up. They're dropping the ball.
Yeah, they are. You're right. They need to absolutely start watching the show, but then they need to have that. He should have a burner phone like the NFL draft guys do, and just wait for the call from Bubba Cunningham.
Just don't get the number leaked, because that ends up being a whole other thing. That was tough.
Yeah.
Hey, that guy had to pay. I wonder if the son got, did he get grounded? He's like 21, so I don't really know that. Does he live at home? How did he? You can't really ground your 21-year-old son.
I think he has to do a bunch of community service.
But like, was what he did illegal, or was the NFL just mad?
No, but I think it's yeah.
If you're the dad, you're like, do what they say. I'm trying to keep my job. You don't blow this for me.
You got to find $100,000, and like NFL defensive coordinators make like $300,000
for defensive coordinator. Yeah, they make more than that.
They make a little more than that. They make a few million.
Yeah, I would say that it's a minimum of $1 million for coordinators now.
Okay,
I mean, at college level, the highest ones are making that. So
yeah,
10% of your paycheck though, potentially.
No, it's not nothing.
Oh man, I would have gotten.
But he's 21. He's grown.
Like that's where
whooped. I know. I know. I'm just saying. I would have
gotten whooped.
Yeah, he's probably making more than. I would hope he's making more than $1 million.
If he worked 45 years for $100,000 a year, he would make Eric Davis money.
Yep. Didn't Blake Baker get like 4?
That's what that was the reference. I was like, he's getting at least $1 million. I don't know what the number. I don't know if it was 4, but it was
because Arenado when
in
he
the
was
millions
there was making 4.
Yeah.
Ernest T. Bass. Flag football is a participation sport, not a spectator sport. No interest.
Okay. Don't watch it then. I don't know.
I think it's fun.
So it's curling.
Bowling kind of is too. Sorry, Brendan.
What?
Yeah.
Hey, at least you said sport. I got to argue with people. About
I'm not lying. I'm not arguing against that
All right.
one. I can't get the ball to snap.
Hey, will either of you guys this weekend be watching the Indy 500?
I was there a week early.
No.
The parade was
Wilson's
right
gonna-
by my
Wilson's
Airbnb
gonna-
this weekend.
really?
So
Yeah, I don't. I can't tell you the last time I watched the Indy 500.
I'll listen to it on the radio.
Joseph Newgarden. Yeah, the radio has great coverage.
No, I actually will. They did
It's good.
my family has a racing background, and we'll be up at the family farm this weekend. And
yeah, it's all about that.
there's somebody's going to have the Indy 500 on. I'm sure.
Tony
That sounds-
Stewart.
That sounds praise Dale. I haven't watched since Dale.
Oh, that's what wasn't the Indy 500.
Did you watch then? That's a different thing, by the way. Okay,
It's almost like I don't know anything.
you're
I'm
just
talking
being
about.
dumb. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
I'm not big into NASCAR. I respect it because I couldn't do it even if it is just turning.
Could not.
But
I could do
the
it.
G-forces. No, you couldn't. Brendan.
In another life, I was
Stop
going to
it.
be destined. My family in the
No, you
90s, they were
couldn't.
racing dirt tracks, and I just they got out of it at
The
when I
Schaeffers
was.
and the Wallaces.
It is-
Everybody, we just missed it.
I'm telling you, you talk about like the Marvel alternate timelines and stuff. There's one in which I am on the top of the NASCAR world. It's just not this one.
So I took a ride one time at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and granted, the ride I took at the Charlotte Motor Speedway was in a minivan. But work with me here. It is amazing to go on the curves and the angle that those curves are.
Oh, the
on.
slope.
Your vehicle is basically sideways. It's you go. "Arr."
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. It's an awesome feeling. My car was only going 65. Everybody else has like Impalas and Ford Fusions and stuff like that. They gave me a Chevy minivan. We were 65 miles an hour. It was not great, but it was interesting. I would have liked to have had the Ford a race car, something that could have been a race car.
You said that was in Charlotte. You did
Charlotte
that.
Motor Speedway. Yeah.
Did you see the switching, but staying with the theme of Charlotte? Did you see over the weekend with the golf tournament played at Quail Hollow? Apparently, the PGA Tour had a tweet that they sent out that made fun of the Carolina Panthers because Scotty Scheffler has more wins since 2022. There's like 15-14 that the Panthers. But the
love it.
owner of the Panthers, David Tepper, lives on the golf course and is a member. And so the PGA Tour had to delete that. I feel bad for like the Matt Rocchio of the PGA Tour that was like, I'm going to post this great joke to social.
It's funny.
And then they go, hey, by the way, the owner of that team is a member at our club.
And not only that,
Yikes.
he's a little bitch.
He's the most
David Tepper.
thin-skinned owner maybe.
He's
Thin-skinned little
not
bitch
great.
of an owner in the NFL.
Threw a drink at
That's
somebody
saying
and
something.
He
from
threw a
his
drink
suite.
out of the
And
suite. Yeah.
didn't he go into like a restaurant or
Yes.
something?
They had a sign up outside that says Carolina Panthers let football people make football decisions.
Yeah.
And he went in there and gave the maitre d' what for?
Yeah.
So like he was outside the bounds of the things he should have been talking about and having decision power over by telling that restaurant what to do with their signs, kind of
Little
like having decision power over the football team where he should just step back and own it. You know,
The irony
kind of a
was not-
self-fulfilling prophecy there.
Yeah, the coincidentalism of it was not lost on anyone.
Hey, you still have time to sign up for the 2025 STL Sports Show. It takes place at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield, Friday, May 30th through Sunday, June 1st. An autograph signing from stars such as Grant Fuhr, Ryan O'Reilly, Roman Berkey, Armand Membu, and many more, plus tons of vendors with trading cards and memorabilia. It's a lot of fun. Go to stlsportshow.com to find out the schedule and all of the information. VIP packages are available. Photo ops with the people that are involved in the show are available for most athletes. Plus, right now, use the code SHOW15 and you can get 15% off of tickets for Fuhr, O'Reilly, and Berkey. It's the 2025 STL Sports Show, Friday, May 30th through Sunday, June 1st at the Doubletree Hotel in Chesterfield, stlsportshow.com. Gents, we have a new member of the Randy Karraker Show.
Oh,
Little Ari has arrived on the scene. Brooke Grimsley
Congratulations.
has delivered a
Yay.
7-pound, 21-inch baby.
Woohoo.
Almost 24 hours of labor,
Wow.
but they made it, and the little Ari has arrived on
Oh
the scene.
my-
He's healthy, so is Brooke.
Wonderful,
And I'm sure
wonderful
Dave
news.
is just doing great. So congratulations to our Brooke Grimsley.
Listen, that's fantastic. Congratulations. Can't wait to have Brooke back. Can't wait to see the little guy. That's incredible. 24 hours is wild.
It's a long
That's
time.
a lot of that's a lot of pain. Thank goodness, guys, that we don't have to do that.
Yes.
How long did the little ones for you guys? You guys remember the timelines for?
Oh,
for
it
yours?
was
Nightmarish.
Oh
yeah,
no,
yeah,
really?
same thing. Like
Yeah.
24 hours.
Oh geez.
It was
more
probably
than 24 hours.
probably at least that leading to a C-section in
that-
emergent fashion,
same
and then a
thing,
week
yeah.
in the hospital trying to deal with the ramifications of that. So yeah.
Congratulations to Brooke and David.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
pretty cool.
I saw one
16.
thing on Twitter, and I needed to get Brendan's reaction to this.
Okay.
Brendan, are you ready for some incredible news?
I guess
John Rothstein is already talking about next year's college basketball season.
that's all he has in life.
And
yes.
yes, I know. He has a little prediction here. It's going to make you pretty happy.
Okay.
Shave. Ready for this one?
Yes.
Kansas is currently not a top 5 team in the Big 12.
Oh, in the conference.
in the conference
Yeah.
entering the 2025-26 season. How does that make Brendan Schaeffer
Bill Self's
true,
time is
true
over.
son?
No,
Is
I'm
what's
Mizzou
going on
first,
there?
but I'll hate Kansas. I mean, I'm Mizzou first. I want Mizzou to do well. So like if it was John Rothstein hyping up Mizzou, I would have felt better about it. But it's nice to know that everybody else is catching up to what
Is
I'll
this
tell
an
you what's
NIL
happening.
thing? Is
Yeah.
they just don't have enough cash?
Everybody else can do what they've been doing for years. They cheat, and then everybody
Yeah.
else can now cheat, but it's legal to do, and so the playing field is leveled, and you no longer have your competitive advantage
Well,
any
and
longer.
but part of like for Mizzou football, they spend money now that they couldn't spend before. You'd think that if you cheated before, that you'd be able to.
They should have. Mizzou was not probably cheating before, and the timing of it was like, oh, we're allowed to do this now. Let's prioritize it, and they do a wonderful job with it now. And Kansas was always doing it, right? And now that everybody else can do it, the
What
lines
about
are
the
kind
Snoop
of.
Dogg and a stripper show makes you say that?
I don't know. It's probably the whole thing, all of it.
Yep. Adam, how did it take me this long to find this show? I don't know.
Hey,
But
this
here's
is
the
what
thing,
we
Adam.
like.
Tell all of your friends,
No
okay?
kidding.
Put it on social media. That's what we need, more people to tune in and be part of the Karraker Show Nation here at Sports Hub STL. We do have Cards Hub 365 pre and post today. Cardinals taking on the Tigers tonight. They get to face Tarek Skubal. That'll be fun. And we will have Pregame at 3 today, guys.
Pregame at 1, I
One-
believe
one
we'll have a
o'clock
1
pregame.
o'clock show, me and Klebs today,
Looking
if I'm
forward
not
to that.
mistaken on
Okay.
that. If I'm not speaking out of turn, I think that's the schedule.
Good. And then after the game, we will have another post-game show for you again here at Sports Hub STL. Adam, thank you very much for joining us and being a part of the show. Love having you as part of the team now, and feel free to text in and to tweet in anytime. Jay Lee says, Randy, tell Brooke we miss her. I will tell her that. Let's see. Do we have any other Brooke? Adam, is this real? Yeah, it's real. And Samuel Howe, I smell ultras. Is Brooke going to be drinking ultras because she had the baby?
Is that what that is? I don't know.
I don't know. The Big 12 isn't a top 5 conference anymore. Ouch.
In hoops,
Okay.
in basketball, I would
Yeah.
I would not agree with that, but
Yep.
I'll be curious to see if the SEC was number 1 last
Yeah,
year.
there'll be one again.
I'll be curious if they can do that again.
Yep. And finally, you mama, Cards beat Scoobel. If they do, I am 100% bought in. If they beat Scoobel tonight, are you 100% bought in?
Yeah, I mean, that would add to the list of the ace caliber names that they have beaten this year. And I would say Scoobel is maybe the best of the bunch. This would be a really impressive win, not only to just win the series within the first 2 games and be able to go for the sweep on Wednesday, but the name that you'd be beating would be substantial. That would be noteworthy. And look, I'm bought in. I said before the season 83, 84 wins, and I think I was too low on the Cardinals, but that was higher than what a lot of people were.
I was saying I wouldn't be surprised between 71 and 83. 71 of 2 years ago, 83.
I said like 71 and 88. Like the range is significant because there's
a wide
there's a lot we didn't know.
delta.
I like the word variance, but wide delta is good too.
Isn't that what Mo would say?
He might. That sounds like him. I'm hearing it in his voice. Yes.
So there you go. Hey, thanks for being part of the Randy Karraker Show, Brendan. Great work as always.
Yes.
Brenden
Appreciate
Schaeffer with us. Great job by Matthew Rocchio, our producer and audio video engineer. By the way, I just want you to know, I am going to smoke an incredible brisket for Memorial Day. And I got to
like, what?
I got to tell you guys, I know how to do it now. So it's going to be good. And I'm going to report back. I might even bring, and we've got tacos tomorrow, but next Tuesday, I'm bringing in.
Might as well be Tuesday. That would be the good day to bring
well,
food.
because we don't have a show Monday.
Well, that's the reason for sure.
But Tuesday, you'll be here. Wilson, are you on vacation next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Oh, darn it.
Wasn't
Well,
gone tomorrow.
No
Okay.
food for you.
No hot dogs for tomorrow.
But I'll bring brisket in next week then, and we'll report back to you. Y'all have a fantastic Taco Tuesday, and we will see you tomorrow at 10:02 on the Randy Karraker Show. Take care, everyone.